What's up guys, in this video I'm going to be talking about possible future matchups for Auden Lariat. Schoolboy also recently uploaded a video where he goes for some max lifts, and then I'll also go over the recent training footage that came out of Devon and Matt. Alright, let's first start off with my thoughts regarding Mach 3. So I thought this was a pretty good event. They moved through the matches relatively quickly, the setups didn't take a ton of time, and generally I thought the pacing of the super matches was quite good. Unfortunately, I do have one big problem with their rule set. And coming into this, I thought it wouldn't be a problem because previously in an interview, I heard Auden talk about the King's Move and how on these tables it's actually a bit more difficult to perform the King's Move successfully. But guys, while I was watching this card, that did not seem to be the case at all. First off, let's just address the fact that at Mach, you can have your humerus bone in a decline position and that is not a problem. So in my opinion, that rule should be standard for any promotion, but I think the rule regarding the humerus bone is a good rule. It should be the standard for every arm wrestling promotion, but at Mach they do allow you to have your humerus bone in a decline position, and I think this is pretty bad for the viewer experience. Even back when I first started watching arm wrestling and I had no knowledge of technique whatsoever, whenever I saw somebody employ a King's Move in that below the table position, I always thought it looked really funky, it looked kind of unfair, and back then I never enjoyed watching it, even as someone who didn't know anything about arm wrestling. So I think moving forward, Mac should definitely think about implementing the humerus bone rule, and that would make some of the matches more enjoyable to view. Also, another problem I noticed was when guys get into the King's Move and they drag their elbow to the very back of the pad, it's very difficult to tell where the pad stops. So you can kind of rest your elbow on the edge of the table and use it as a fulcrum to get a bit of a leverage advantage. And oftentimes it seemed to me like the elbow was definitely off the edge of the table, but it's just really hard to tell. And when you're allowed to use the edge of the table like that as a fulcrum point, it almost turns the game into more of a body weight thing where you get this seesaw effect. And if you just drop your body weight, you're able to get some significant rise that you wouldn't be able to achieve if your elbow was fully on the pad. And my point here was really displayed nicely in the Pork Chop versus Jason match. I'll be honest, I think Cameron should have won that match 100%. He was by far the stronger guy and he was able to get into good positions, but because Jason was allowed to drop below the table like that and get that seesaw effect where he could just drop his body weight and keep Cameron from pinning him, he was eventually able to gas Cameron out and get the win. But I actually thought Cameron looked really good in that match. I thought he was by far the stronger guy, and under a normal rule set, I think he would have won that match. Alright, let's move on to Auden versus Artem. So talk about the King's Move. Although this match was a 3-0 victory to Artem, I did find it quite entertaining to watch. There are so many comments online that are mocking Auden, making fun of him. I know he doesn't mind, he can take it. And yes, some of the things he does are embarrassing, but he's doing it to sell the show, he's doing it to entertain. I've seen a lot of comments that are making fun of him for trying to be like his dad or copying his dad, as if this is a bad thing. I don't know about you guys, but I think wanting to be like your dad is one of the greatest compliments you could give to your dad. If you had a good childhood growing up, if you looked up to your dad, if you wanted to be like him and emulate the things that he did, this is a good thing. Yes, some of the things he does and says are a little bit cringy, but you got to remember he's on the public stage, and whenever you're in front of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, whether it be in real life or online, you're going to do things that are embarrassing. And another thing to take into consideration is, for example, in round 1, after the go, Auden stops Artem center table, and it looks like he has decent hand control. Immediately, Auden starts celebrating, yelling in the face of Artem, and then unfortunately for him, Artem surges sideways and his arm gets fully extended within like half a second. The match is over and Artem gets the win. In hindsight, that's kind of embarrassing because he started celebrating and then immediately got smashed. But what if he would have won that first round? That would have been a legendary moment, and I think in a sense, a lot of what Auden is doing is clip farming, and there is a risk to clip farming. You're going to say radical things, and hopefully it goes your way, but if it doesn't go your way, it's going to be embarrassing, you're going to get memed on. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. As far as the match goes, Auden got flatlined 3 times in a row. It was not competitive at all. I think the one good takeaway for Auden is that his hand did hold up. It did look like he got hand control several times. But against Auden, I don't know if that's really saying much. Auden doesn't care all that much about the hand. He is a side pressure based puller. So I think the obvious takeaway for Auden is he needs some more bicep strength. He needs some more brachialis strength. Hand strength is good and all, but if you don't have the biceps, the triceps, and the shoulder to move your hand, you're going to get beat by a guy like Auden every time. So what is next for Auden? I don't think the hype is dead. It has definitely declined, but Auden is very charismatic. He's going to get hype going again, and he's definitely not going to want to lose 2 in a row. So moving forward, what is a good potential matchup for Auden? I think Tom Stubblebine. So Tom Stubblebine recently uploaded a video where he calls out Auden Larrett for a match, and I think this would be a good match. I believe they are both around 240 pounds, so they're both in the same weight class, or at least close to it. Auden is definitely the taller guy, so he could continue his streak of having a leverage advantage over his opponent, but Tom is nowhere near Auden when it comes to side pressure. I believe Tom is actually a top roller, which I think would give Auden a good chance at winning. Tom did have a match against Auden, I don't know if it was a couple of years ago, but it was on the left arm. He performed similarly to Auden on the right. They both got smashed by Auden, so I think this could be a really good match. You'll have to let me know what you guys think. Who should Auden face next? Immediately after Auden lost Auden, I thought about Tom as a potential matchup, and then when he came out with his video calling out Auden, it just reinforced what I had already been thinking. But again, let me know what you think. If you've got a better idea, I would love to hear it. Let's move on to the recent training footage that Schoolboy came out with. So he went for some maxes on pronation and rising. So a lot of people are very impressed with these lifts. I am also impressed, but not quite to the same degree. So his max on the Devon Larrett style pronation lift was 168 pounds or 76.5 kilos. But guys, honestly, on this lift, I thought the form was atrocious. I'm not saying that he's not strong. He's definitely strong. Getting 168 pounds off the ground with one arm is very impressive, but when he went for this lift, his arm opened up quite a bit and he was almost fully cupped in when he lifted the weight. And if any of you have done this lift, you will know that as your arm extends, sometimes you're able to get the weight off the ground, and especially the more you cup your wrist, the easier the lift gets because you're shortening that lever. So the fact that he had an extended arm and he cupped his wrist in, to me, kind of invalidates the lift a little bit. Unless you're arm wrestling like Michael Todd does, I don't think there's a whole lot of carryover, but definitely still impressive in my book. So the maximum rise he was able to achieve was 45 kilograms or 99 pounds for 3 reps, and I actually thought the form on this lift was really good. He kept his wrist locked pretty well, and the angle of his arm was not too bad. It was around 90 degrees, so that's a really solid lift from Schoolboy. I would say getting 100 pounds even for just 1 rep is very good, so I'm glad to see that he's staying committed. Right now, a lot of people want to see Schoolboy versus Reichard Bornman. Now, in an interview that Henry Naring did with Lars Verbakken several weeks ago now, he actually suggested that Lars face Schoolboy next. So I'd be curious to hear what you guys think. Do you want to see Schoolboy versus Reichard Bornman or Lars Verbakken? I personally think the obvious answer is Reichard Bornman. Both of these guys are young prodigies making their way up the ranks, and this match would generate a ton of hype. All right, let's move on to the Matt Mask versus Devon Larrett training footage. We were all waiting in anticipation for this footage when Devon announced it on his own channel. Since it has come out, there have been a ton of videos analyzing the pulling footage, breaking it down. Welcome back, Performance Enhancing Pancakes. If you didn't know, he's back and he's doing analysis videos now, so that's pretty cool. But here's my take on the video, and this is my take regarding Matt and Devon overall. I don't really think this footage means anything. Whenever Devon and Matt spar, it looks about the same. Matt goes on the offensive, Devon is on the defensive. Sometimes it will seem like Matt gains a little bit of hand control. Sometimes it seems like he gets a legit pin. And then other times it seems like Devon could bring the match back to his side of the table fairly easy if he wanted to. I'll be honest, guys. I think if Devon and Matt had a legitimate match right now, Devon could flash pin him 3 times in a row. I know this is probably not what you want to hear, and I'm as big of a fan of Matt Mask as anybody he is. But Devon is at such a high level right now, and I just think that his pronation is way too much for Matt. Years ago, they were much more even, but recently I do believe that Devon has just reached a whole new level, and I don't really think that Matt could give him any trouble at all. And you gotta remember, these guys are buddies, and Devon is a great actor. Devon can look like he's struggling against anybody, and he's definitely not gonna want to demoralize Matt by just destroying him. He's going to allow Matt to work. But that's just my opinion on it. I'm a huge fan of Matt, and I really hope that he wins his upcoming match with Kiturgali Angarbayev, but I don't think there's much to take from this training footage, and I do think that if Devon was actually trying, he would deal with Matt no problem. Anyways, guys, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.
Do you need some